I have been told directly by the Saginaw VA that the provider, your medical provider, determines what is uploaded to your VA master file. Now, there's two files. You have your local, which is not always rendered into your VA master file. Well, in the military, it's or OMPF, official master personnel file. But I'm not sure what it's called with the VA, but your master file is all documents related to your care, at least VHA, Veterans Health Administration. Your official, veteran, what they call it, the blue button file, it's also called. That's what I call it. And that's what they call it on the website. So, but your blue button report is everything connected to VHA. It actually has some of your service data as well, your service dates, where you were deployed, your rank. Let's see, and some of your dependents, some of your stuff from DEERS is rendered as well, not always. Seems that they are still having a connection problem with that last time I read. It's hard for DEERS to update into the VA. Now, if you haven't updated your DEERS since you separated, that would be problematic as well because it may not be up to date. Or if you updated your DEERS when you were overseas, that can complicate things too. It's actually personally relevant to myself. I updated DEERS a couple of times overseas. So, some of these files, if they're not coded right when they're uploaded, they never render into your VA master file, which they're supposed to, because your master file is what the intake center, Veterans Benefit Administration, that's what they pull. They can't pull your local file. It's local. They pull your master VA file. So what I've discovered over the course of the weekend is some of my diagnosis that they've only put on paper, but they've never scanned the documents in. These are actually some documents that were required by the state of Michigan. They never scanned them in my file, and they never included the diagnoses. So it would appear, and actually they have a friend, I discovered, they have a friend that works at this particular office for the state of Michigan, so they may have intercepted the documents that were not even served, that were left at the state to be uploaded. They may have never made it into my master state file as well. And all of these being felonies. If these are prevented from being handed into the state, if these are prevented from being properly handled within the VA, these are all felonies, all of them. And intercepting documents when you're not connected to somebody's case, or if you are misdirecting them, again, felony. So I hope that this may encourage the Michigan State Police to get involved in Saginaw County. Some of the stuff that's going on, I don't know what's going on here. It's like a madhouse here, You got a collection of some of these extremist groups. You got, got Michigan militia here. You got diehard QAnoners. You got 3%ers. Or no, not 3%ers. Sorry, that's a Muslim group. Or no, it is a, yeah. No, you got 3%ers, which is also a you got 1% or 3%ers. This is a African American Muslim extremist group, and they're either 1% or 3%. I forget what they call it. Then there's another group that's a 3%ers, and they're like non-racially motivated, almost connected sovereign citizen type group. They're not really racial. As far as I can tell, anybody can join. They're extreme patriots, almost under the Michigan militia umbrella. That actually I never talked about that. That was a piece of academic work. But various groups that are people that are in various groups, can find an umbrella under groups like Michigan Militia, QAnon, just like people who are any kind of extremists, whether right or left, can find a place to sit under the umbrella of Anonymous, the hacker group. Um, but all over, at least Saginaw County. I mean, it's crazy, crazy. And then you have the various. Now, not all of these Israelite groups are bad, but there's ones that are racially motivated. They are bad. Uh, it's a small minority within these particular Israelite groups that are not some kind of extremist. We're talking about like maybe, less than a couple of dozens of people, less than a couple of dozens, less than 100 people you're talking about um, that aren't involved in some kind of extremist activity that are part of these religious groups, newly formed religious groups. But then you got all kinds of other sovereign citizens here every now and then. Driving around mid-Michigan, you'll see the plates. I will see the plates. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. Now, some of these groups, it's not illegal to be a member, but when you pull things out a little further, uh, their ideology says that other parties shouldn't exist. Their ideologies say that the state government and the federal government should not exist. Here you're getting into the extremist ideology. So, so, so anyway, I'm just watching Hoarders, instead of being captive here in mid-Michigan. Supposed to be doing some kind of role helping people. Because of the things that happened with my company, I don't think I will ever return to any kind of defense work. The most I would, do with the military would be medical or spiritual. I because of the things that happened, I would never do any of that kind of work again. I mean, unless it was, to protect families in need, people who needed to be, freed from racial or domestic violence situations. Racial extremism situations, like a family is being targeted, or clergy that are wrongly accused and threatened when, the state says there's nothing there. Stuff like that. I would do that. Or investigating somebody who is a predator, but the whatever kind of predator, abusive social worker, abusive doctor, whatever, or somebody who targets children or women. I would become involved in that kind of work, investigating people, detaining them, or just hunting down networks. But anything else, no, I will not do it again. Not after all the things that have happened. Caused great harm to my family. Retaliation. And I think that's one reason why the retaliation continues. Because looking across the places I've worked the past 8 years where we've gotten medical care, you see a constant thing of, not the entire agency, but we'll always have, a group of people who sabotage my employment, or they sabotage our medical care, our benefits. It's not paranoia. Generally, if I do a whiteboard, I can find connections between these people. Sometimes families, sometimes they're religious group, sometimes they're from a particular neighborhood. I can always find, these concentric circles where these people are connected. And with that being said, this video is about the VA. in Saginaw, and I was told that providers determine what goes in the medical record. Veteran has no say whatsoever, and I've asked for raw data. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I mean, unless my sleep apnea is acting up. Otherwise, I'm very detail-oriented, and I always ask for raw data, even lab tests. I like to see the raw data. They refuse to give it to me, and they refuse to upload it. And the last one is, even though, excuse me, even though the stuff they gave me, I'm having 2 consecutive C-peptide tests and the GAD tests. Well, the GAD test was new, but the GAD, show it's only one half of the question of is there any kind of autoimmune or genetic illness that's going to destroy those islet cells that create insulin. There's 2 tests. They only did 1, of course. There still could be other genetic questions, and these tests don't address insulin resistance whatsoever. And a C-peptide of 7, even though now I'm being treated with gosh, I forgot the acronym. With a kind of insulin sensitizing pharmaceutical, a drug that makes my body more sensitive to insulin. I have the same C-peptide that I did 3 months ago. That means that there may be some insulin resistance there. They refuse to address it. They refuse to give me the raw data out of both of those tests. They refuse to give the raw data. And I've seen this again and again and again with many, many different kinds of exams or radiological procedures or blood tests. They refuse to give the raw data. They'll say, oh, it's not in range. What's the raw data? You don't need it. Oh, okay. You see, because if you're looking at raw data in one particular score, for example, let's say your range is 1 to 3. If you're at 0.9999, oh, yep, you're out of range. That's significant. You're sitting on a fence. I've talked about this before in other videos, and in my messages with the VA regarding things like bilirubin that sits on a fence for years. Well, not years, about 2 or 3 years for myself. That's significant. You're sitting on a fence. Something's going on. Yeah, you're in range, but you're failing to see the big picture. It's negligent medicine. That's why, I believe that the best thing for veterans is to end qualified immunity at the VA. End it permanently. Yeah, you're a direct appointee, but if you act outside your job prescription, the VA will not protect you. End qualified immunity for all positions, even for police officers. Police officers are the most criticized, the most lawsuit targeted, the most complaint targeted of any agency or government or municipal employment or state employment in this country. People always target cops. So, why shouldn't the kind of scrutiny that police officers are held to, why shouldn't it be held to, John Smith, who's an 88-year-old veteran, or his doctor, or to Takesha, Takesha Dexon's, her dentist, or Javier Pera's nurse practitioner that handles his chemotherapy. Why aren't these people held to the same standard that police officers are? Oh, you were kind of rough, yeah, when you're arresting the guy. We see the bruises. And why are the cuffs on so tight that it makes impressions on his skin? And it's not just one side. That would say that he's trying to set you up. It's all the way around. That means they were on too tight. Why aren't we all held to the same standard? So that's why I say end qualified immunity at the VA. Start holding people responsible. Contractors don't have immunity anyway. Only direct appointees do. And subcontractors, they don't have any protection at all. But they're so far removed legally that, you know how hard it is to file a complaint against a VA subcontractor? Even if you do have their NPI. You know how difficult it is? Extremely. If you're even seeing their real name, to get an NPI on them, they won't release it. I've even documented at this VA somebody giving me a prescription for a continuous glucose monitor, and they refused to put their NPI information on it. Number one, because I said I'll even pay for it. So they put that in every single message. Yeah, give him prescription so that he can pay for it. He'll pay for it himself. They put it in the message, and they refused to put their licensing number on there. And after I thought about it, I said, you know what? Why am I paying? You know, I have state medical care, and I have VA. Why am I paying for a glucose monitor when the VA policy, you know, very broadly has many exceptions? And besides, when it comes to my care, they keep raising the bar for requirements anyway. First, I had to be diabetic. When the VA policy, when you read it, if you're pre-diabetic and you have sugar spikes, you can get a glucose monitor. If you're hypoglycemic, you can get a glucose monitor. If you're a diabetic that may have spikes, a lot of spikes because of your diet or because of other medical issues or because of just, you know, unstable sugar, you can get a glucose monitor. There's plenty in there. You know, it should be broadly applied, very broadly applied, but they're not. They're applying it narrowly. And they targeted me by refusing to put their licensing number on 2 prescriptions for 6 months of these monitors. And that was before and after. Before, when I offered to pay for myself, and then thinking about my income and how they're sabotaging my claim and how they're holding me back. And then I thought, I shouldn't have to pay for it, you know? I'm more than willing to pay for my own medical care, for my own life insurance, for many of my own medical needs. I bought some of my medicine and my sterile water for 7 years. And my filters, even when I can't afford my filters for my air purifiers, I buy them myself. Now we're running on air filters for a year that are old. They're a year past when they should have been disposed of. I just clean them out and put them back in. They're barely effective. But what choice do I have? The VA refuses to buy me filters, even though I have all kinds of allergies. I have asthma. Other people, they stock them up with filters. I've read about case again, numerous cases where the VA buys air purifiers plus filters. Not for me. So, yeah, and can't forget how they seem to ration stuff out, including time to see a physician. But so this video is about that. It's about how, when you try to remind them that diagnostic coding is not put in the system, some diagnoses aren't even put in the system, and they tell you, well, if the provider doesn't want to include them, they don't have to. Really? If you've been diagnosed with something, everything goes in the system. And then I point out to them, they say, well, if it's not uploaded, it doesn't have to go in there. And I said, whether it's uploaded or not, if it's relevant to a veteran's medical care, even if they give it to you, it's from outside the VA, If a VA staff member touches it, it's supposed to be uploaded. Even if they reject it, it's supposed to be uploaded. So, because all of this is relevant to your compensation and pension case. There's even a point where where a veteran has recourse for the flagging if they're flagged. They have to allow you to insert a statement. They also have to allow you to get copies of everything through FOIA requests. The Saginaw VA is wrong, and they need to be investigated, because if they're doing this stuff to me and putting my health at risk, I wonder how many other veterans they put at risk. How many other veterans that they've kept captive in poverty because their health just stinks. So they're stuck at home. They can only do so much. And I wonder how many have been killed.